Hey guys, this is Carrie, and in this video we're going to be making a drum kit. So I wanted to start this video by giving credit to the inspiration for this video, which is when I was learning how to code, I found this amazing teacher on YouTube named Wes Boss. Either during this class or when you finish this class, if you want to continue learning coding, I would definitely recommend checking out his videos. So what he does is he builds web apps like a drum kit in this video, and he uses those web apps to teach you how to program in JavaScript. And that sounds very similar to what I do and how I teach the class, and I think he was a big inspiration in that. So today's project is based strongly on his projects. I actually use the same sounds that he used, and I'm going to program it a little bit differently, more based on the way that we've talked about these things. So let's get started. I'm going to close down this. He also has a couple of other classes, and you'll notice that JavaScript, CSS Grid, these are all tools that I use a lot if you ask me for help. So you can take any of his classes, and I think they're super useful. All right, so continuing on here, I'm just going to keep the toolbox open. Today, in order to save you time, so you didn't have to start off by finding sounds, I have created a starter set of code that we're going to begin by forking. So you can click this, or if the fork button pops up blue for you when you load the link, you can use that. So I'm going to click this and then fork, and I'm going to change this to just drum kit. So let me confirm that. So this should be a file. Oh, I don't know why it's drumkit1. Oh, I guess I have a drum kit from last year. Okay, it's drumkit1 for me, but for you it's probably just drumkit. And it should have these 9 sounds here. And then I also created the audio elements here so that you didn't have to type those in. Each of them has a source, which should match the file name, and an ID, which should just be the beginning part of the file name without.wave. So, all right, let's begin. I'm just going to move this over. Oh, well, actually, let me pop it open to full screen first. Okay, so in designing our drum kit, we don't have any user interface yet. So what I was thinking about was I was thinking that we could have 9 little boxes that would represent the different drum sounds going across the middle of the screen. So let's do that. I'm going to create a div that will contain each of the drum boxes. So let's give this div a class of content, because this is going to have all of the content in it. Now if I think about what I want these boxes to look like, these boxes are going to have 2 parts. They're going to have like maybe the word snare drum, and then the button that you can press to play the snare drum. So let's see, I think each of those boxes is going to be a div itself. And then let's see, this could be div.drum, and that will create a div with a class of drum. And then inside of each of these, we'll have 2 paragraphs. The first one will be the type of drum. So let's call that, the first one is going to be boom. And then for the letters, what I'm going to do, I'm going to say that we should play the boom sound whenever they press the A button on our keyboard. So I'm going to create another paragraph, and I'll give it a class of key, and I'll say that this is A. And I'm choosing A just because of the home position when you're typing. So I'm going to be using the ASDF space JKL dot, or JKL semicolon keys. So what we'll do is we're going to create one of these for each drum. So let's see, we'll have another drum. This one is going to be clap. And we'll have a class of key here, and then clap will be the next one, which is S. Drum, boom. No, it's not boom anymore. We'll have the next sound is hi-hat. And that will be D, because we're just going A, S, D, F, J, K, L, semicolon, like when we type. This one will be kick next, just from here. And then for kick, we'll do F. Next up, actually, you know what? For kick drum makes me think about the space bar. It's like the bass drum that you kick when you have a drum set. So why don't I switch that around? I'll leave drum, kick, and then I'm going to make kick space here for instead of D. And then the one where I had the kick before, which was F, I'll put that for the open hi-hat. And that way our two hi-hat sounds are together as well, which is cool. Hi-hat is one of the cymbals. So we've got a space here, okay, for kick drum. So I've done open hat. Okay, so ride, snare, tink, and tom will be J, K, L, and semicolon. So ride, oops. And then this is going to be J, we'll press for ride. Tink is the next, no, snare is the next one. So snare, and snare will be K. And tink is next. Tink will be L. And next up is tom, and tom will be semicolon. All right, so let's see how that looks here when we refresh our screen. So we have boom is A, clap is S, hi-hat is D, and this looks decent. Let's see. We want to start styling that. So I'm going to add a background image for this project, but before we do that, let's see if we can make these look a little better. So I'm just going to pop this open, snap that to the side, and this to the side here. And let's take all of our things here, and those have a class of drum, because they're each a different type of drum. So we'll take all of our .drum elements. Let's put, I don't know, a gray background on those. That's kind of translucent, so RGBA. And to make it gray, you make the red, green, and blue amounts all equal. So 100, 100, 100. And then A is a measure of the transparency, so that we'll be able to see the background through it. I'll put like 0.8, so it's not too transparent, and we might change that. So let's see what that looks like. All right, that looks good. I want to line these all up in the middle of the screen. So let's give these each a display style of inline block, I think. Let's give them a fixed width of 100 pixels each. Let's see how that looks. All right, so I think, yeah, it's making 2 rows, but if I widen it up, it makes 1 row there, which looks good. Let's take the content one, and let's make a text-align center here, so that our content div, oops, I pressed save there. I guess like reflexively I pressed save, but I want to refresh it. There we go, that's looking better already, and it centered all of the text within that div. Let's also move these down a little bit from the top of the screen. So let's put a margin top on it of, I don't know, let's do 100 pixels and see how that looks. Actually, you know what? I'm going to move that margin top to content. I'm sorry about that. So now it should look the same, basically. Okay, but I like that programming better. 100 is not enough. 300 might be, or 250 might be better. Okay, cool. So now it's in the middle of the screen. That looks pretty good. All right, let's add our background image. So let's see, drum kit. And we'll just do a Google search for drum kit. We'll go to images. Drum kit might be a little, oh, that's kind of cool. So let me go with one of these. So I'm going to click this one here. I'm going to do a control click, copy image address, and then I'm going to take the body element and I'll set the URL, or no, I'll set the background of that body image to the URL I just copied and pasted. All right, we'll close that down. We'll refresh this. I'll do a background size cover. Oops. All right, let's see if I can find background size. There it is, background size cover, and this should make the background cover the whole page. And I noticed that's starting to repeat down at the bottom, so I'll do a background repeat, no repeat. All right. And I guess I don't want this white space at the bottom, so what you can do is if you take your background and you add after the URL a second background, like black, it will now have a second background for the part that's left over. This is not the best image here, but I think it's pretty cool. Maybe you found a better one. And maybe now you want to change some of this stuff, so maybe I'll make my drums purple. Let's see, I'll turn the green down to 0. Let's see how purple drums look. Kind of interesting, I don't know. Maybe if I had different font here, a different font color, that would be like gold or something, it could look good. I don't know. I'm digging it. I'll leave it. All right, that looks pretty good. Maybe we'll throw a border. No, let's leave that like it is. I also think that I like to just take I like to take every element on the page and add this attribute box sizing border box. And this isn't going to change anything on the page right now, border box, sorry. But it will make it so that it's easier to do something in the future. All right, so let's see. This looks good. Let's head over to the JavaScript and start to program our sounds. So what we're going to do is we are going to select all of the elements on the page we're going to interact with. At first, this is just going to be the sounds. So let's select all of our audios. So we're going to have one for each of these from our HTML. So boom, clap, hi-hat, open hi-hat, kick, ride, all of these things will have one. So let's see. Let boom equal document dot query selector the audio, which is the thing with the ID of boom. I think I already put those IDs for you. So let me just copy and paste this like 9 times. All right, so we have 9 sounds, so now we'll have 9 selectors, which is good. And let's just see, here it's not these things that we're selecting because these don't have the IDs, it's the audios themselves. So clap, hi-hat, kick, open hat, ride, snare, tink, tom. Hopefully I memorized that. So clap, hi-hat, open hi-hat, kick, ride, snare, tink, and tom. Okay, cool. All right, and oh, I forgot to change the variable name, right? These can't all be boom, so clap, hi-hat, open hi-hat. I guess there's no way to get around this, right? Where we end up typing a lot when we code. And some of it is not the most interesting because we just have to select everything on the page here and make sure that our variable names and IDs match because that will make it easier for us. I just have this space here because of the sizing of my screen. So now we've got all of our audio elements selected. What we're going to do is we're going to add an event listener. But instead of clicking these, we want to do it so that when we press any key on the keyboard, it will actually make the drum sounds. So I think that the way we do this is we add an event listener to the whole window. So we're going to do, instead of the usual, let me go to my toolkit here, and the easiest way to do this is to just copy and paste this. A couple of changes from how we usually do it. We're going to have it so that the element that's waiting for an event is not one of these because we're not going to be clicking them. It'll be the whole window waiting for us to press a key. So I think if we do window.addEventListener, And then the event type that we're going to be waiting for is a key down event, which means somebody pushed the key down. So just to make sure that this is working, I'm going to put in a console.log with my classic filler text here of ah. So now we'll open up the JavaScript console here. Control-Shift-J on your computers. Let me zoom out a little bit. You can see that my drum kit layout changes a little bit depending on the sizing of the screen. Let's do a refresh here. And now when I click on the window, every time I press a button on the keyboard, it gives us an ah. So you can see I've pressed 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 buttons, which is pretty sweet. So it's registering our key presses, which is great. So the next thing we want to do is, depending on which button we press, it should make a different sound. So let's see how we do this. So every time there's an event, there's something called the event object, which is automatically created. So what's going to happen is we press the key down. That's an event. I want to send this event into our function, into our code block here, so that we can tell which key is pressed and some other information about the event. So the way that we do that is we add any variable name we want to the function here, but I'm going to add the variable name event. A lot of people will call it E. I like to call it event because it's more descriptive. So what's going to happen is we press a key down, it creates an event. We're going to send that event into the function. And then instead of logging this, let's log the event so that we can see what that event object looks like. So I'm going to refresh the page here. And now what you can see is what gets logged is, depending on which key is pressed, the event object is a little bit different. So we can see here that when I pressed A, the key was A. The type of event is key down. There's a lot of information here. It says that I wasn't pressing the control key, I wasn't pressing the shift key. All of this is pretty important. But what's most important is I would like to be able to tell which key is pressed. So it looks like inside of the event object, there's a property called key, and it will tell us which key is being pressed. So instead of logging the whole event, which is this whole collection of data, let's log just the event.key. So let's refresh here. And now when I press any button on the keyboard, it tells me which key was pressed, because we're logging from the event objects the key property, which is which key was pressed. Now this is super important because if you're making a video game, right, you would have to know which buttons were pressed on the keypad because it would do different things. Our drum kit is going to play different sounds depending on which button is pressed. So the second that I say that, that should remind you, play different sounds depending on which button is pressed. That should remind us of if and else if statements. So I'm going to grab my collection of if and else if statements. So depending on the key pressed, play a different sound. So I'll just paste, oh, I hate how it pastes for this, where it misaligns like that. So just highlight the ones that are misaligned and press tab. And now you'll see that your code blocks with the curly parentheses are all nicely aligned. So thinking about this one, I want to say if they push A, play the boom sound. So let's do that. If event.key, the thing that we were logging is A, we don't really want to log it. What we want to say is if it's A, then do, and I'll just delete this comment here, boom.play, because I think A should be the boom sound. And I think boom.play is the whole code there. So let me do a refresh and make sure that that's working. Oh, unexpected identifier in line 21. So let's figure out why. Oh, I have my else if condition there, so it's not going to work until I put some more of these. So let me add the next one. If event.key is equal to s, then we want to play the, and these are lowercase because the key code is lowercase for, or not the key code, the key property, the button we push is lowercase. So then we'll do clap.play because it says if we play s or press s, play clap. All right, so that looks good. Let me refresh that again. So A is working. I noticed that if I press A twice, it doesn't really work. So let me do another thing here. Let me see if I can reset the current time back to 0 before it plays. Let me see if this works better. This works better. So what we're going to want to do is every time we play a sound, we will start by making it so that the sound gets reset to 0, which is the beginning of the sound, and then plays it. All right, so here we go. All right, it's fun. I'm making a beat already with just the 2 sounds, but you can't hear anything, but I can, so I know that it's working well. I am going to delete the else here because I don't want to have some sound that plays for all of the sounds. So I'll probably add one more key here, or maybe I'll just do a couple more. So I'll go all the way to space because space is kind of interesting, right? It's a really unique one. So here we'll do D, and D should play the hi-hat. So I'll highlight this and highlight this, and then I'll just type hi-hat. The way I highlighted those was I highlighted 1. I'll show you on this, sorry. If the key is F, if the key is F, you can highlight clap by clicking anywhere in the word and then doing Command D. And to get this next clap, you do Command D also, and it will select the next instance of clap. And since I want to change both of these, I can say open hi-hat. Okay. Before we get to space, I'm just going to check the code out here that it's running. So I'll try each sound. A, S, D, F. Okay, it cannot set properties of null. I have a mistake here. So open hi-hat has an error. So open hi-hat is supposed to be the thing with ID of open hi-hat. Let's see if I did open hats. Oh, okay. So let me go back to my JavaScript code and change that. It's no longer open hi-hat. 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 All right, let's do a recheck here. All right, all of my sounds work. Let's see. I am going to press the space key. So it looks like that symbol. Let's see if space we can just get to work using the exact same method here. So I'll copy my else if, and I'll say if the event.key is space, then we'll do the kick drum. So I'll do that Command D, and I'll say kick.play. Oops, I'm in the console here, so let me go back. All right, I think I have the wrong thing going on here. It looks like kick is playing the hi-hat sound. I thought kick would be the bass drum. I guess boom is the bass drum. No! All right, so let me do some switching around. No, you know what? I'll leave it like how it is. A is the bass drum. I thought kick would be the bass drum, but it's a hi-hat sound, so I guess I programmed 5 of the keys. Can you go in and program the remaining 4 keys here so that they play the right sounds? Notice that we don't have an else statement here because we didn't want to play anything when we pressed the other keys. All right, so I think that this is a cool introduction to a couple of new concepts. We encounter our first new event, which is the key down event. The window is the thing that listens for the key down event, as opposed to a button that listens to be clicked. And then depending on which key is pressed from the event object, we play different sounds. All right, sorry if I rambled on, and I'm sorry about getting the kick drum wrong. I thought it was going to be the bass drum. I hope this video was helpful, guys, and I hope you like your drum kits. Bye.